From AI deepfake pornography to fake news about things that never happened, AI-generated images are becoming a bit of a problem. So what can we do about it? AI watermarks are a leading idea and one already finding its way into government regulation. Now you're probably familiar with the idea of watermarks. They're those things you see on stock images that you don't pay for. And at its core, AI watermarking is basically that. It's the idea that you can add some kind of tell that will identify an image as AI generated. However, there is a bit of a problem. AI watermarking might be a dead end. I recently wrote an article for IEEE Spectrum magazine about a new watermark removal tool called Unmarker. It was created by just one guy, Andre Cassis, who is a student at the University of Waterloo. Despite that, it can defeat the watermark on up to 60% of images that use even the most robust watermarking schemes, and less robust methods are entirely defeated. And here is the real killer. Unmarker is not a targeted attack that has to be made and tuned for each specific watermark. It's universal. It works against all image watermarks to some degree, and in theory, it should work against all of them in the future. So what exactly is going on here? Well, to get to the bottom of that, we first need to understand a little bit about how AI image watermarks work. Because while the idea is similar to Shutterstock slapping its logo on a stock image, the details are actually quite a bit different. You see, a watermark like the Shutterstock logo, it operates in spatial data, pixel space. It's easy to apply, but it's not robust. Depending on its location or implementation, the watermark could be vulnerable to cropping or blurring the image. There's also the possibility of AI attacks. If you've ever used Magic Erase in a photo editor, then you know what I mean. AI-generated watermarks also have the additional problem of needing to be invisible to human detection. That is because the goal of an AI watermark is actually different from a watermark on a stock image. The AI watermark is trying to add a subtle way to detect the image as AI generated without ruining it, while the watermark on a stock image intentionally tries to ruin the image so that you will pay the owner to remove it. Now, if you're an avid anti-AI enthusiast, you might actually like the idea of AI images having a watermark that's as awful as possible. But of course, that would only push people towards AI image generators that don't have any watermark, so it would kind of defeat the point. So, an AI watermark needs to be invisible to humans, but also detectable to a detector. And it needs to be robust to simple image manipulation. That is a tough problem, and to solve it, AI image watermarks turn towards the spectral domain. The spectral domain might sound like an alternate plane of reality, but it actually means converting an image from spatial data like pixels to frequency data. The classic example of this is a Fourier transform. I'm not going to go into the details of that here, but I'll link to a top-notch YouTube video if you want more on the topic. Now here's what happens when you run a Fourier transform on an image. As you can see, there's no human detectable correlation between what the image was before and after. So this spectral domain provides a place where you can hide an image watermark, a place where people won't see it, but AI image detectors can still convert the image to that spectral data and then find the watermark. Which, by the way, still doesn't show up as some logo or something like that. It's going to appear more like noise to a human. What's neat about this is a properly designed AI watermark can resist image manipulation. You can turn the image upside down, shift the colors a bit, crop it, or blur it, and it will still retain the watermark. But it turns out this is also a weakness. The key insight of Unmarker is that a watermark can't just add any random noise to the spectral domain of an image and use that as a watermark. There's actually a limited number of spectral frequencies where the watermark can be encoded without disrupting the quality of the image in pixel space. Unmarker specifically disrupts those spectral frequencies. And once again, the things that make spectral frequencies a good place to hide a watermark become a weakness. Because remember, we can use these spectral frequencies to put a watermark in the spectral domain without disrupting image quality. But that also means that we can disrupt those frequencies without causing much disruption to the image quality. And that's what Unmarker does. It broadly disrupts the spectral frequencies where the watermark is likely to be encoded, which allows it to universally attack multiple watermarks without specifically targeting each one. Now, according to the paper that was published about Unmarker and presented at the IEEE Security and Privacy Symposium in May of 2025, Unmarker can remove up to 100% of watermarks, depending on the method. Against some newer methods, it is less effective, but still removes up to 57% of watermarks for new methods like tree ring watermarking. Now you might think, hey, that is not great, but maybe with some work, we can improve those numbers. We can get watermarks that are still 80 or 90% effective against Unmarker, and where the vast majority of image watermarks are not removed by the tool. But even if you assume that in the future, watermarks will be more robust, and that no new attacks will appear that are even more effective than Unmarker, I still think that Unmarker highlights some fundamental flaws in AI watermarking. The first flaw is that AI-generated images are relatively trivial to generate. Even if hypothetically you create a watermark that is resistant to 95% of all attacks, meaning that out of 100 images, 95 would retain their watermark, that would still be enough to erode the watermark's usefulness. After all, a baddie could still generate hundreds, maybe thousands of images, and only post the ones where the watermark was successfully removed. Or maybe an attacker doesn't even need to be that careful. If someone just wants to cause general controversy and distrust, they could just generate thousands of images, run the attack, and not verify whether or not the images had the watermark removed. In a perverse way, the existence of a small number of AI-generated images that now do not have the watermark among a flood of watermarked images would seem to suggest that the ones without the watermark are authentic, in a way that would not occur if watermarks weren't in use at all. And I think that really forces us to face the original sin of any AI image watermarking scheme. A watermark on an AI-generated image can tell you that the image was generated by AI, but the lack of a watermark cannot tell you that an image was not generated by AI. However, to be clear, I don't think that means we should just give up on trying to deal with AI-generated images. There are alternative methods, like for example, content credentials, which adds encrypted metadata to verify the authenticity of an image. It is still not perfect because, of course, there's nothing to prevent someone from just taking a screenshot of that image and then sharing it without the metadata. But at the very least, you do know if you see an image with that encrypted metadata, there's a very high chance that it is, in fact, authentic. So with that said, I'd like to hear more about what you think of AI image watermarks. Is this a game of cat and mouse that watermarks are destined to lose? Or do you think there's some way that watermarks could be implemented that would be resistant to the issues that I brought up here? Feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts. Be safe out there, and I'll see you next time.